area by the name of Balaam. And he tells Balaam, hey, I need you to come over here, and I need you to curse these people for me, because I can't defeat them. So if you curse them, they'll be cursed. Because he tells them, whoever you curse is cursed, whoever you bless is blessed. And he then says, well, I can't do that, because they're God's people. I'll check. He says, I can't do this, but I'll check. So lets him stay the night, and then he goes and he prays. And the Lord says, no, you can't say that. The people that are coming are my people. So then the king sends all this money and all these princes and says, hey, I really need you to come curse these people. And Balaam says, I really shouldn't. I can't do that, whatever. But if you stay, I'll pray again and see what God says. And so we pick up in verse 20, Numbers 22, verse 20. And God came to Balaam at night and said to him, if the men come to call you, rise and go with them. But only the word which I speak to you, you shall do. So Balaam rose in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went with the princes of Moab. Then God's anger was aroused because he went. And the angel of the Lord took his stand in the way as an adversary against him. And he was riding on his donkey, and his 2 servants were with him. Now the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand. And the donkey turned aside out of the way and went to the field. So Balaam struck the donkey to turn her back onto the road. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path between the vineyards, with a wall on this side, wall on that side. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she pushed herself against the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall, so he struck her again. Then the angel of the Lord went further and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn, either to the right hand or to the left. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she lay down under Balaam. So Balaam's anger was aroused, and he struck the donkey with his staff. If you're taking notes, if you want to know what's going on, this message is entitled, Don't Blame the Donkey. Don't blame the donkey. How many of y'all been in church long enough to remember when everybody preached out of King James? Do the translation yourself. Let me let you know what's going on here. Balaam gets on his donkey, right? We just read the story, he's riding, and this angel keeps getting in the way. Verse 23, we see that the angel stands in the way, the donkey sees the angel, and the donkey just veers off into this field, and Balaam gets mad, so Balaam hits the donkey. The same thing happens again, except there's a wall on each side, and so the donkey tries to get away and smashes the foot on the other side, and he gets hit. Donkey gets hit again, and he keeps going, the angel's in the way, the donkey lays down on the ground. Have you ever faced opposition in your life and you didn't know why? Right? I can remember one time I faced opposition and I didn't know why, other than the fact that I am mechanically and constructionally incompetent. I had a broken door on the side of my house. I've told this story before, and I fought to get this deadbolt out for about 3 hours. I lost my Christianity 9 times. I couldn't slam the door because the deadbolt was stuck. It's a bad ordeal. I'm walking outside. I'm cursing at the fence. Like I'm done lost. I'm over the edge. I'm having a bad moment, right? You ever had a bad moment? Stop lying in church. Y'all all had bad moments, right? I call Jared and I say, bro, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. He drives down to my house. I don't think he turned his truck off. He got out of his truck, came in, went chugga, 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 and the thing was out. Like I'm telling you, he wasn't there long enough to say, hey, Jared, how should I fix this? He just walked in and popped it out really quick. I was facing opposition, and the problem was, it wasn't that it was stuck so bad, as I was so mad that I was making it worse by what I was trying to do to the situation, because my opposition was getting me so frustrated. Balaam is in this moment, and he's having a lot of opposition. Balaam believes that he is headed in the way God told him to go. He's doing what God told him to do, and this dumb donkey keeps getting in my way. This opposition keeps happening and popping up, and I don't know what is going on. We find ourselves in this position because Balaam begins taking his frustration out on the donkey. Have you ever taken your frustration out on the thing that was frustrating you? Right? I tell this story whenever I minister in schools. It comes up a lot about how you just make dumb decisions in the moment. You ever made a dumb decision in the moment? Right? Whenever our emotions get involved, things get foolish quick. I had a friend of mine was going to audition for piano at Southeastern. And him and his brother got in an argument. He walks to the top of his staircase upstairs of the house, and he punches the wall. Boom, hits a stud, breaks his hand. He's so angry about how bad his hand hurts, he takes one step to the left and punches the wall with this hand. When he goes through with this hand, he catches a nail that's in the wall on the stud. So he shows up to school for the day he's supposed to audition with a cast on this hand and an ace band that's wrapped up around the cup with stitches on this hand. Because his emotions got involved and his things got foolish. Did that ever happen to you? What's happening to Balaam? And see, what ends up happening is whenever we begin to focus all of our attention on our opposition, on the problem, what ends up happening is we begin to say things like, if I could only fill in the blank. If I could only get a job that made more money than what I'm at, then I'd be able to do what God wants me to do. If I could only get my spouse to think like me in the ways that I think we should be, then I could be able to do what I need to do for the Lord and things would be better. If I could only get so-and-so to do whatever. If I could only get out of this season that I am stuck in, everything would be all right. And we begin focusing our energy on the things standing in our way, the things slowing us down, the thing that is not allowing us to do the thing that we think we're supposed to be doing. A lot of people come to this place where they think that I've got to get things right before I can do things for God. Right? Like, my finances are a wreck, so I can't do something for God because my finances are a wreck. So I get my finances right. And if my finances are right, and that if my wife made more money and had that other job that she used to have, then my finances wouldn't be bad. Or if my husband did this or didn't spend so much money, doing whatever he does, then it would be better, it would be this, it would be that, it would be whatever. We blame everything and we say, if only, if only, if only, if only. And Balaam, riding this donkey, is thinking to himself, if I only had a different donkey. If I only had a different donkey. And we say, if I could only get out of this season that I'm in. You ever felt you were stuck in a season? We're like, why, God, am I still in this position? I worked at Castro America Pawn Shop for about 4 years, and for 3 years, 364 days of that 4 years, I wondered why I was in that position. I was miserable. It's the worst employee the company ever had, probably. Only reason I never got fired is because the manager played on the worship team. And we're friends. But I used to blame everything on my job. And I'd say, God, why am I stuck in this position? Why? Why is this happening to me? Why am I stuck? I need you to ask yourself a question. Are you stuck or are you assigned? Are you stuck or are you assigned? Well, Pastor Chris, I don't know why God would assign me to be single. I don't know. Ask him. I don't know why he would assign me to work at this job. Well, maybe because people at that job need the Jesus in you. Well, I don't know why I'd be stuck in this position with my spouse who does this. And, well, you married him. You're assigned. But we miss this up. We get all jacked up with it because things are not going the way that we think they should be going. If you're assigned somewhere, you either have to quit the assignment or complete it. There is no in the middle. You got to quit it or you got to keep going. I can't tell you how many times my mom, I'd sit in her office and I would moan about whatever position I was stuck in, whatever season I was stuck in. And she would just sit there and look at me, okay, you can quit or you can hush. You could quit or you could shut up. That's your choice. Because God has you here. And we don't like to hear that. And so we always blame the donkey. You have a donkey. I don't know if you knew that. We all have a donkey. But let's keep going a little bit here. Let's go to verse 28. It's about to get real good. Then the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey. Y'all, I love this story. And she said to Balaam, what have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times? Y'all, the donkey starts talking. I want to make sure, I'm pulling this up the table. The donkey starts talking. Many times, God will use what you think is opposition to show you what's actually going on. God will use the very thing that you're frustrated with, that you're angry with, that you're beating up. He will use that very thing to reveal to you what the problem is. Now, we're about to run every religious demon out the building. Go to verse 28 in the King James, please. Then the Lord opened the mouth of the ass. And she said unto Balaam, what have I done unto thee, that thou hast smitten me? That's why they used to preach from King James, because it just preaches so much better. Thou hast smitten me these 3 times. I'm going to use a little slang from our world. Sometimes God doesn't use the situation that's your opposition. Sometimes God will even use the person. Because it says here that he opened the mouth of the ass. Sometimes God will use the person that is your problem. And will open their mouth. And they will begin to tell you what the problem is. But you read, this story is so practical. It's so real. It's so every single day. Because Balaam is mad at the donkey. And he's so blinded to what's actually going on. Because he's so emotionally frustrated and venting and angry at the donkey. That he's missing what's happening right in front of him. To the point that the donkey has to start talking to him. But I told you that when we get overly emotional, foolish things begin to happen. Look at verse 29 in the New King James. And Balaam said to the donkey, this man is so jacked up, he starts talking back to the donkey. He's talking back now. Balaam went from, I'm doing what God told me to do, I'm walking, this dumb donkey's the problem. The donkey starts talking. Oh my God. I feel like if the donkey began talking, I would just stop everything I was doing. Hold on. My first question would be, who put something in my water? The second one would be, what in the world is going on that a donkey is talking? But no, Balaam begins to argue with the donkey. He still doesn't get it. Because you have abused me. The donkey has abused Balaam. Isn't it amazing how fast we can become a victim? Isn't it just amazing? Woe is me. Woe is me. I think I'm going to make a rule for myself. That I will never, ever, ever comment on Facebook again when someone is making themselves a victim. Never. If you are that desperate for affirmation, go to Jesus. If it's that bad, don't get it from likes and prayers your way comments on Facebook. Go to Jesus and get it, because the Facebook, you're going to forget about it tomorrow because you're going to scroll past it's going to be over. But Balaam, you have abused me. The donkey! This is a donkey! A donkey can't abuse you. Your job can't abuse you. You're a child of God. Your boss can be a jerk. Your boss can do things abusive to you, but he can't touch me. Because no weapon formed against me is able to prosper. But what ends up happening is we get so frustrated and we get so angry and we get so zeroed in on the point of our opposition that Balaam turns and talks to a donkey and says, you have abused me. If there were a sword in my hand, I would kill you. I would do anything I could to get rid of the opposition. Anything I could to get rid of this one thing. If my husband would just change his mind about where we live, Lord Jesus, it would just, everything be so much better. I'd just get rid of that one thought. My whole life. Perfect. Zero in on it. And we begin to argue with it. And we talk to our opposition. You ever talk to your opposition? You ever on the way to work, you just start yelling at your job, even though your job is not a thing to be yelled at? These people, and the stupid contracts and the inventory, let us. You turn into Joe Pesci from Home Alone. Balaam begins yelling back at the donkey. If I could, I'd kill you. What happens in verse 30? Keep going. Sorry, 31. Keep going. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, And he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand. And he bowed his head and fell flat on his face. And the angel of the Lord said to him, why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I have come to stand against you, because your way is perverse before me. Man, the whole time Balaam has been thinking the donkey is the source and the reason for his opposition. Most of the time we think that the source and the reason of our opposition is this thing we're fixated on, when in reality it almost never is. Balaam looks at this donkey. Balaam looks and he now sees the fact that it's the Lord, and it says that I have come to stand against you. The donkey's not the source of the opposition. The donkey's not the reason for the opposition. We find out here that the source of the opposition is actually God. The source of the opposition is actually God. Please hear me out. Not every trial, not every block, not every tough season, not every difficulty, not every form of opposition you face is from the enemy. I need you to hear this. It's not always from the devil. You do know the devil needs permission to do anything to you. He either needs it from you or from God. You can give him permission by opening doors in your life and making dumb decisions and then reaping those consequences that he comes in. Or, like Job, the devil goes and I bet you if I can put my hands on that person, they'll curse you. The devil has no authority in your life as a believer. You understand that? None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Jesus took it, and when you put your faith in Jesus, you have the authority of Christ in your life. So he cannot do anything to you unless someone gives him authority. So when you think about that, a lot of the problems we face, we blame on him, and they are not of him. We make him bigger and better than he ever actually is. That's like if somebody stands up and introduces a prize fighter and makes them sound like Mike Tyson, and they come out looking like me. The introduction can be fantastic, but when you actually see the object of the introduction, it's a little misleading. We do that to the devil. We blame everything on the devil. It's the devil's fault. It's the devil's fault. It's the devil's fault my marriage is terrible. No, it's your fault. You stopped investing in it. It's the devil's fault my finances are terrible. No, you have undisciplined spending. And you're not a good steward of what God has given you. That's the devil's fault. We make him this big bad God. And what ends up happening is when God brings opposition in our lives, we get upset. When in our reality, the storm, the trial, the block is the mercy of God in a form we don't like. I don't like not having our regular church building. I don't. Opposition, I don't really particularly care for. But I recognize that the devil didn't do it because he ain't that strong. He don't control the weather. But what that is that's the mercy of God in a form I don't appreciate. It's difficult for me. It's uncomfortable for me. But we see that the source of the opposition here is God, standing in Balaam's way. Some of you might need to take a step back and ask yourself, the thing that you are having such opposition with, is God opposing you? Is God holding off things from you? Is God the one preventing stuff from happening? Because it clearly says, I have come to stand against you. But notice this, please. Because your way is perverse before me. This one gets real good. Because your way is perverse before me. Now hold up. Didn't we read God say to get up and go with those men? I thought I read. Did I read that? We'll go back to 22 verse 20. Numbers 22 verse 20. And God came to Balaam that night and said to him, if the men call you, rise and go with them, but only the word which I speak to you, that shall you do. Go to verse 21. So Balaam rose in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went. See, what Balaam heard, what God said, was if they come get you, go. What Balaam heard was, it's okay if I go. I'm going to just save them the trip. I'm going to go early. Because the source of the opposition was God, but the reason for it was the fact that Balaam wanted the reward he was going to get from prophesying death over the Israelites. See, many times God might be the source of the opposition, but the reason is you and I. Because there's something in you and I that he doesn't want there. And he's going to get it out. And here we see that Balaam got up of his own accord. You want to know what I fear the most about this whole passage? Is I guarantee you when Balaam got on his donkey and started riding, he thought he was doing what God wanted him to do. You realize how many people are out there thinking they're doing what God wanted them to do when they just added a couple of pronouns and helping verbs and changed the command because it fit better with their agenda? Well, God told me to do this. Are you sure? Did God tell you to do that? That's why it's so important that we're in our word and we're in prayer and we're in his presence and we're connected to people around us. That's why things like coffee talk and the men's breakfasts and life groups are so important, because it gives us accountability. Because if all of a sudden God tells me to start spending a lot of alone time with someone else's wife, the people in my life are going to say, Chris, God is not telling you to spend a whole bunch of alone time with someone else's wife. They will tell me this. And then if I try to argue with them, they will probably just beat me up. That's probably what would happen. But if I'm not connected, this message is going to get a little addition to it real quick because it's a little early. If I'm not connected, but see, you can be connected and not be submitted and still miss out on the benefit of connection. Let's say that again. You can be connected and not submitted, and therefore miss out on the benefits of the connection. See, I can be connected to John in life group. But if I'm not willing to submit myself to accountability with John, this relationship is only surface level and does nothing for me in the spirit. But it's when I get with Cliff Wilson, I get with my brother, I get with Brother Paul, I get with Bo, and I'm not only connected with them, we can have good coffee, and we can have good donuts, and we can play horseshoes. But if Cliff Wilson or Brother Virgil says, hey, Brother Chris, I just want to let you know, I saw this, and it didn't look the best, it didn't sound the best, you might want to continue. If I can't take those things, then my connection is simply a religious action to make people think that I love Jesus more than I actually do. And here, had Balaam been connected to anyone, and had he been transparent and said, the Lord told me to do this, somebody could have said, that's not what God told you. God said, if they come to you, then you go. But see, we don't want that kind of relationship in our life. We'd rather blame the donkey. It's easier to blame the donkey. It's easier to say, if this would change, if this would get different, if this would reverse itself and I just moved past this season, everything would be better. Everything would be great. When no. The donkey is not the source or the reason for the opposition. The source for the opposition can be him, and the reason is just about always you and me. Because God loves us enough to get in our way. Because you know what was going to happen? If the angel doesn't stop Balaam from going, Balaam's going to get there. He already twisted what God said once. He'll twist it again. And he'll speak a curse over God's people. Read the rest of the Old Testament and find out what happens when people speak curses on God's people. They die in very creative ways. So God brings this opposition in the end to save Balaam's life. To protect Balaam from doing something absolutely ridiculous. But Balaam blamed the donkey. I want to ask you a question this morning. What donkey are you blaming? What donkey are you blaming? Is your spouse the donkey? Some of y'all would take the King James Version and say 100%. Is your job the donkey? Are your children the donkey? Is the season you're in the donkey? What is it? What is it that the moment you bring it up, you automatically turn into a victim? You automatically pull up there are all kind of excuses and arguments and things that, well, if this was different, if that was different, if I didn't have to deal with this, if this wasn't the case. Stop blaming the donkey. Because if Balaam would have just picked up his eyes, think about this. Y'all got to humor me, because this isn't an, I'm just taking a little narrative liberty here. I would imagine that Balaam's riding the donkey, and the whole time he's just yelling at the donkey. There's an angel standing in front with a sword drawn, and Balaam is pointing at the donkey. He's hitting the donkey. He's focused on the donkey. But David says, I lift my eyes up to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. I got to get my eyes up. Some of you are so zeroed in on the donkey, you can't see the angel of the Lord standing in front of you, preventing you from making an epic mistake. Preventing you from doing something you shouldn't be doing. Preventing you from wrong thoughts, from wrong places, from wrong people. Maybe the reason you can't get a different job is because God knows that right now, where your character is with Him and what your relationship is with Him, you can't handle it. You couldn't handle $25,000 more a year. You couldn't handle that spouse. You couldn't handle that person yet. I don't know. But you'll never find out if you keep blaming the donkey. So my question for you this morning. The response to this message. Every head bowed and every eye closed. Are you blaming the donkey? Are you blaming something else? If this person wouldn't have hurt me, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that. If this wouldn't have happened, if that wouldn't have happened, then maybe. We sang today that all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so good. With every breath that I'm able, I will sing of the goodness of God. We talk about the goodness of God. What about when His goodness doesn't look good? Instead of trusting God with goodness that doesn't feel good, we'd rather just blame the donkey. Oh, it's the donkey's fault. It's my spouse's fault. It's my husband's fault. It's my wife's fault. It's my job's fault. It's my kid's fault. No, maybe God's trying to use the situation, not trying, or maybe, no, He is. He's trying to use the situation with your spouse, with your children, with your job, with your income, whatever that situation is, whatever the opposition is, He's using it to develop more of Him in you. But we blame the donkey. This is how I want to end this morning, because I can't pray for you to stop blaming the donkey. The goal of this message is for you to look within yourself and identify if you're blaming the donkey. Am I blaming the wrong thing? Because the bottom line is, if you keep reading the story, Balaam does go, and Balaam is used by God. Hear me out. There is a purpose and a plan and a mission and a ministry with your name on it that God has called you and gifted you and anointed you to do. But if we keep focusing on the donkey, we'll miss the appointment. So today, I'm going to pray, and we're going to leave. Because this morning's message was not supposed to create this moment where I feel like I am no longer blaming the donkey. No, I want you to go home, and I want you to get up tomorrow, and I want you to be reflective on this, and I want you to say, you know what, I'm not living Monday like I did Friday. I'm going to walk in victory. I'm going to ask God. 1 Corinthians says, Jesus says it, 1 Corinthians says as well, let him who has ears to hear, let him hear. Ask the Lord to show you. Holy Spirit, reveal to me what in me has to change. What am I doing wrong? What is this opposition? I'm facing this opposition. Why? Why is it here? What are you trying to do with it in me? What's the purpose of it? Pull it out of me. I don't want to blame the donkey anymore. Because if we're going to be really objective, last thing I'll say is this, is that the donkey was the very thing bringing him where God was actually going to use it. Don't tell me the pain and of the process and the hurt and the frustration God isn't using. Don't tell me that. Balaam's beaten the very thing that was bringing him to where God was going to use.